Welcome back, listeners. Today we have a tennis legend with us, the incredible Jessica Steck. From lighting up the International Tennis Federation women's circuit to acing first-round double matches in all 4 Grand Slam events, Jessica's journey in the world of tennis has been nothing short of spectacular. Today, she's going to take us behind the scenes, reminiscing about iconic tournaments like Wimbledon and the U.S.Open, sharing secrets on how she balanced the rigorous demands of sport with self-care, and diving deep into some of her most challenging matches. We'll also delve into some hot topics like the rise of transgender athletes in women's sports and the evolution of tennis with advancements in sports science and technology. So grab your headphones, find a cozy spot, and get ready for a smashing episode with Jessica Steck.
Welcome to the Crackin Backs podcast with our lovely guest, professional. I don't care if you're ex or you're current. You're once a professional athlete, you're always a professional athlete in my book. Jessica, South African pro tennis player. And you had a remarkable career, which we're going to go into, but we're really, really excited to have you on your show. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you.
So thanks for having me.
It's great to see you, Jessica. You had a really successful career on the ITF women's circuit, and Wimbledon, the French Open, the Australian Open, the U.S.Open, and these are iconic tournaments. What is one standout moment that you will never forget for the rest of your life competing during competition in these events?
Oh, I think there are a few standout moments. Probably winning the U.S. Open junior doubles was kind of like a standout moment, just because it happened at the same time that the Bryan brothers won their first Grand Slam event. So, and we were actually very close from the age of 13 onwards. So we grew up together. So that was kind of special. And then, of course, probably beating Anna Kournikova in the U.S. Open Juniors. That was rather special in some ways. A lot of what happened in the past, you kind of at the time took it for granted, but now you look back and think how fortunate you were.
So let me that moment though. I'm always fascinated by that absolute moment where you realize that next point, boom, is yours. You win the match, you win the tournament, you win the game. I mean, how did that change your life? Like, how does that shape your life and maybe everything that follows what you do?
Oh, yes. Well, I guess they say, pressure's a privilege. It's kind of
Privilege.
like, there's such highs, but then such lows. So it's kind of balancing, knowing that, when there are periods of lows, the highs are coming, and that just, comes with your work ethic and, being in the best possible, being prepared, basically. But yes, I mean, so many things can change in a split second. So it's certainly
with
a rush of adrenaline, but you've got to stay in the moment. You can't be thinking about the past, what happened. As they say, that's why the rear view mirror is so small and the windshield so large. You've got to keep looking forward.
Yeah.
Oh,
Isn't that
I love
great?
that.
But I love
that one.
pressure is a privilege. That's cool. That's
Yeah,
really
I like
cool.
that too. Yeah.
So, winning first round doubles matches in all 4 Grand Slam events is pretty impressive. Is there a difference in preparation? And I love to know what goes through the mind, what is required to handle this level of tournament.
Yes, well, I guess basically growing up competing since the age of like 8 years old. I mean, it's almost ingrained in you that, so much of it is mental. It's probably 95% of it is mental. And it's just staying focused and staying positive. That's a huge, and I think especially nowadays, the mental aspect is so important, and
Mm.
it's just having a routine, just knowing what works for each individual.
Is 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 it something you realize? It seems like the mental game has really become more important as the years and the decades move on. People have really underestimated the mental aspect of it. Do you see that as a difference? Like you said, it's more there's so much mental aspect to the game.
Oh,
Has it become more
most
recognized?
def, most def, oh yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, if I look back, that's something I would have done differently, and actually more so hired a psychologist rather than a coach,
Mm,
you know, because everyone can hit a forehand and backhand.
mm,
It's basically just the mental side of it and knowing that you can do it. And for example, I played Serena Williams out in Indian Wells, and you know, I mean, she sort of crushed me the first set, and the second set I was actually serving for the set at 5-4, and immediately I sort of thought, gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. And I mean, and then of course I lost. It was over before I knew it. But that just shows, if I could go back in time, I could think, if you're right there in it, you've got to believe in yourself.
wow.
So it's a lot of it's just trusting, just knowing you can do it. If you have a little bit of doubt that comes in your mind, then you might as well shake hands.
Wow.
You know, you've
What
you've
what would you have said to
If you were to
yourself
face
back
her,
then that you understand now at that given moment where you felt that, wow, am I actually could I actually beat her? And then you have that self-doubt. I mean, that's hard to change that when that tape runs through your head. What would you do different?
oh yes, I would have I would have thought, this is the score, and not been thinking who she is. You've got to put everything out of your mind, all those distractions, you've got to just push them out, and
she's
just
a
stay
very
focused on the next point, just stay in the moment.
she's a very imposing athlete. She hits the ball strong. She has that grunt, and I mean, Indian Wells is in my area. I was not too far from there. And what would you, if you were her coach, if you were your mental coach going back then, similar what Dr. Spencer just said, how would you attack? Because you're not going to beat someone like that physically because she's so imposingly strong. So you have to beat her mentally. What would be your strategy?
Yes, well, I think at that time, because this was so long ago, um, basically, I mean, I would have moved her more, kept her on the run, and just, you know, basically just played my own game. Um,
Mm.
but it, but and gone into it with more of a positive mindset, not being so um, thinking, gosh, she's so intimidating, which sure, I mean, she was, but that's all, and that's confidence too, and a lot of it is, it's you are what you think.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
It's interesting, to understand, it's easy to say, be positive, don't let that negative stuff get in your head. It's easy to say that, but it takes conditioning for your brain as well as conditioning for your body to, have endurance and have strength and have technique and all that. It's, I think the mental game is really underrated, and some of us take it for granted. Do you feel that you would have to train your
Oh,
brain as well?
oh, most definitely. I meit's kind of like training a muscle. You know,
Yeah.
you've got to keep on working at it.
Yeah.
And as they say, but you need to work on something, 10,000 hours to perfect something. So it's almost like it just becomes second nature. But certainly training the brain, and just in general, just in life,
Yeah.
Right.
is huge.
So let's move away from the mental aspect and talk about the physical aspect of the the kind of demands that are out there on a professional tennis player. Whether it's in the midst of the battle of the competition, or like injuries are hard to prevent, and now we understand recovery and things like that more than ever before. What would you have done different back then compared to now?
Yes, well, basically, well, yeah, there's a lot I would have done differently, and I think you know, being a successful junior and probably, sort of in the top 10 in the, junior ITF player in the world in singles, I think I certainly practiced way too much, hitting thousands of forehands and backhands, where really that was spending 5 hours on the tennis court every day. That was unnecessary. I think these days, you've got to scale that way back and play more matches. And because that's basically, you can be a great person who can just hit cross courts all day, but that's that's fine it'll take you to a certain point, but then it's no point in just doing that hour, thousands of hours. So that, I think, wore my body down. And then a lot of it's luck too, and genes, because I was 127 in the world in singles and playing in the finals of a big tournament out west, and went up for an overhead and came down and broke my wrist. So that put me out for a year. And so, that was unfortunate, because, that kind of, I think my confidence went down, and then then I, after that, came back playing more doubles, and then I had shoulder issues. So, that was kind of like that was sort of an unfortunate turning point.
Hey, Jessica,
But
I want to stay on the. I know Dr. Terry's going to appreciate this, but I want to stay on what you just said and highlight it, and that is because we get these patients that come in, these kids, these teenagers, and their parents and their coaches have them practicing twice a day, hours each time, and they don't mention that they have competition during the weekends. So they're playing hard 7 days a week. So can you please elaborate on what you just said about, duration
Totally.
and timing, right? Right, Dr. Terry?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
And no, it's way too much. So by the time you're 18, it's like your it's finished. Yes. So and recovery is actually even more important, or as important as the time spent on on the court. So basically, by the time the weekend comes, their legs are just heavy, and they've got nothing left. Yeah, so it's and then that is the trouble I see with juniors, even here in Florida. It's like the parents just want to see them busy, just hitting thousands of balls, and I'm just shaking my head, thinking, that's not going to do it. And then, first of all, they've got to enjoy it. Half of the
Right.
time, it's got to be the person's dream, can't be the parent's dream. Because if you don't enjoy it, you'll only go so far. So, that's
I
unfortunate.
100% agree.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. How do you handle, like, if you're training and coaching today, and it's hard to argue with you because you've been at the highest level, but how do you handle a parent or another coach, if you're working with them, who's got this hot junior who's 10, 11, 12, 13, who's crushing everything, and all the parent is focused on is getting this kid a scholarship to a D1 school, and they just like they have to outwork everybody. They have to outwork everybody. How do you handle that obstacle? Because I'm at a school that's a D1 school that's very well known for tennis. I'm at Pepperdine, and we've won nationals before. And I've had kids that by the time they hit their junior year, when they're looking at going pro, they're done. But
Yes.
the argument was they had to work hard to even get there in the first place. How do you find that balance?
Yeah, so so many things have to work together. First you've got to have the talent. You've got to have the mental aspect of it, and then the perseverance and the drive. So the chances of getting that scholarship is it's so slim. So you've got to put everything into perspective, and for that junior, they've got to have a fulfilling life, and it can't just be focused on sports, because it's a huge amount of pressure that you're putting on that player. And then sure, they can get a shoulder injury, and then that's kind of their parents have spent so much money training on all the training, they might as well have just they could just pay to go and just study at the college. So it's that's a delicate subject with parents, because often they're kind of in denial, and they don't want to hear that. So it's
have you ever broached a subject? It's better to win later than earlier. It's almost like, do you want, do you ever put it to the parents and going, well, do you want your child to be a 15-year-old star or a 20-year-old star? Do you ever put it that way and just say, pick one? It's better to,
Yes.
do you want them to win early, or do you want them to win late? It's better to lose early than lose late. Do you ever have those conversations?
Yes, most definitely. And also, but I mean, if they're playing 5 hours a day when they're 11, I mean, naturally they're going to be burnt out. And by the time they get to high school, they probably won't even want to see a tennis court. So you've got to it's got to be slow and steady. You can't just cram it all in. And tennis players these days are peaking at a later age, where before it was 16, 17, but now it's it's late 20s, in 30s, even 40s. I mean, if I look at Wozniacki coming back just now during the U.S. Open and winning a couple of rounds after having 2 children, that just shows. I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Hey, Jessica, I want to go back to this training perspective that you're talking about. I think it's very important. And yes, we all agree that these kids are overtraining based on the pressure the parents or the coaches give. But can you give us an actual number or time, like what would, if you were coaching a kid that you saw was overtraining, doing the 7 day a week thing, twice a day each day, how would you change that so so our listeners and viewers can adopt some of your principles?
Oh, yes. So basically, you know, I mean, it depends on their talent, and each individual is different. But I would say no more than 2 hours a day, to be practicing.
Nice.
I mean, anything over that is just it's going to be it's not going to be very productive.
Good.
Um,
Good.
and and then deal more with strengthening, like with bands, and
Oh,
um,
fantastic.
getting into more preventative um, you know training. So off the court is as important than on the court. So
How about recovery stuff?
and then recovery is
Like
huge.
what?
Yes, and then
What would you do, and what would you
oh,
tell
well,
others?
resting.
What's that?
Well, even just
Yeah.
resting,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, and yeah, and having a day off, just actually listening to your body, but not you can't force anything.
Right.
And I mean, a parent doesn't know how that junior, how their son or daughter feels at the time. They're just probably saying, "Oh, well, just keep going," like that's going to get you in better shape. But then it's counterproductive, and then you're just getting into bad habits, and you're just trying to survive.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for giving people a recipe, because Dr. Terry and I, we might discuss it all day long, but it's hard to, when we're not at your level, it's,
Oh, yeah.
in one ear out the other.
Yes, yes.
So let's go with that. I want to ask you about these kids at the young age. Some of the pros and cons, what they go through, the risks, the knee injuries, the menstrual cycle problems that these kids might be having, and how they may affect these athletes. What have you seen over the years, or maybe experienced yourself when you're pushing it to the limit?
Yes, well, basically, it's really a lot of it's who you surround yourself with, and having the right coaches, the right trainers, the right team, basically, to steer you in the right direction. I was fortunately very disciplined with, diet and training and sleep. There's so many aspects that come into play. To be able to perform at such a high level. So a lot of it is who you surround yourself with, having the right entourage, and just you can't force anything.
So, okay, that's important, but I want to really get specific, because these kids might think that they are surrounded by the right folks, the right people, the right team. And I have seen
Yes.
it. Dr. Terry has seen it. They'll hire a coach, and we've seen it at the level of professional, other sports, whether it be football or motocross or whatever it might, surfing, whatever it might be. And
Yes.
the off-season training, some of these coaches want to prove themselves, and they will drill these kids into the ground. And they go, oh, that was a good workout. And this kid's like barely walking off the floor. So female athletes, what have you
Yes.
seen, being that maybe, you've coached, some kids, and have you seen any of these problems come up?
Oh, certainly. And I mean, I've seen coaches that, are sadly in it for, the financial reasons. So they are like saying, okay, no, we've got to be on the court for 4 hours a day. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a factory. So that's where it's also, it's sad to see when they're where you hope that they have the best interests of the athlete at heart. And sometimes I wonder if they're not just thinking of their own pocket.
Oh yeah. Have you seen female athletes, their menstrual cycles get interrupted because of the stress or losing weight or just being run down in general?
Oh yeah, oh yes, most definitely. And then, oh gosh, it's such a tricky age as it is, with weight and and that's also who you surround yourself with too. They can either make it or break it, but that's also been an issue with a lot of young female tennis players. Just eating disorders, which is very sad.
Yeah. The eating disorders. I mean, part of recovery is good nutrition.
Yes.
At your point in life right now versus the way it was back then, nutrition is much more recognized. For the females out there that you could relate to or they could relate to you, what was the difference in nutrition back then for you versus today? And what would you give as advice to these kids?
Yes. So basically, well, during my day, so much of it was like all carbohydrates. It was so different back then. Where right now, I think just a balance, a good balanced diet is the way to go. And obviously, the sugar levels in the food here in the States is, that's it's amazing. I mean, I go to South Africa, and even just for something as simple as peanut butter is so sweet here, and in Europe and South Africa, it tastes totally different.
Really?
I mean, like there's no sugar. Yeah, so we've just become accustomed to, an unfortunate, a lot of unfortunate foods, and so that's because a lot of it is maintaining your sugar levels. So I think, and then if when you're on the road, it's even harder because you've got to, you can't quite control what because you're eating out a lot. So you've just got to be wise and have and hopefully have good people, educating you, a person on what, as far as diet goes.
I know you're not a nutritionist, but you're sharp enough to know what works. When you say a balanced diet, what would that look like for someone who's training through the week for you?
Yes. So basically, I mean, breakfast is extremely important. So, it would be oatmeal or, a boiled egg. Just everything. I think really basically everything in moderation. And then, obviously eating smaller but more frequent meals per day. And I mean, like, I was someone who could actually have a meal and go right out and play tennis, play a match where some people just can't do that. So in that way, everyone is different. But then, as far as sort of the intake of carbohydrates, I'd think to myself, well, what am I going to be doing the next 3 hours? Well, if it's sleeping, I'm not going to be having a huge bowl of pasta because I don't need the energy to sleep. But so it's basically just just healthy eating, which is I think when you start cutting out things, that's where it can get that's never very wise, in my opinion.
That's a really good point about eating a big meal, which America tends to do the big meal at the end of the day, and it will definitely have an effect on your ability to have a sound sleep because your body's too busy digesting versus the blood should be in the brain and in the muscles healing them. But so that I just want to highlight that point that you just made.
So that's what I've been doing wrong. That's why I have no blood in my brain at all, right?
I didn't say anything about that.
Damn it, now I know.
Well, yeah, it's probably why I'm losing my hair here. But anyway. Hey, Jess, I'm going to ask you a very a hot question right now about transgender athletes in sports.
Yes.
Especially in the world of women's sports. I want to know how you think and how you would feel and prepare if you were to compete against a transgender athlete during your career.
Well, I think I'd feel as despondent as I did walking onto the court playing Serena Williams. So, and that probably would stay the same. I don't think I would. I think that's how I would feel. I think there's no way. I mean, it's just. I mean, that's hideous. Yeah. I mean, now there's no way. I can compete with a male.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, it's just physically, it's not. Yeah. It's. It's just not. I won't even go down there because, I mean, it's just not, it's impossible. Yeah. Yes. So you just can't compare the strength, and when it comes to the serve, oh no, I mean, no, I think, it's, I'll stick to just, playing female athletes. Yeah. No, I think it's.
Well, there is just an article that I saw 2 days ago about a transgender rugby player who was playing.
Oh God!
And injured some of the opponents bad because of the strength difference. And it's just like, yeah. Like first of, I mean, there's so many comments that I would want to make, but it's a whole nother interview. Martina just had recently been very outspoken about her feelings against transgender athletes in women's tennis. It just it wouldn't make any sense. So
no, it just would make. I mean, no, it's kind of sad that's where we're going. Yeah, but I mean, hopefully not, but. Yes, no, I think that's unfortunate.
So you're starting to see, unfortunately, for women who have been trained since they were 6, 7, 8, like you, and now you're starting to see some of this. You're starting to see. In fact, we talked about this at our training room today. You're starting to see some of these males that couldn't even make the first round are now transitioning, and now they're wiping out the females to become number one. if we see this trend going, in your opinion, from a pro female athlete, because I can talk about it from a guy, Dr. Spencer can talk about it from a guy, but from your position, your opinion, I'm not asking anything else, but your opinion, what needs to change and be addressed, and how do you see it being handled?
Gosh, well, I almost just think you almost have to nip it in the bud, and because otherwise, there's no. It's just going to become, it's just going to get out of hand. I'd say. I mean, I think it's just women should play against women, and men should play against men. And I sort of, as if I was a male, I wouldn't find it all that rewarding to go out and beat some lady, or a female, and think, gosh, well, I just went up in the rankings. I mean, it's almost I mean, it's you're just sort of cheating yourself.
Right. Do you ever see them down the road maybe creating a separate, almost like a separate category, where it'd be, or do you see it being nipped in the bud altogether?
Oh, I would hope, that they just, sort of put an end to it. I mean, I would save that for, playing recreational club, tennis, and, sure, if, I mean, no, I hopefully we won't get there.
There you go.
Okay, Jessica. We are going to start one of our favorite segments of our program called the Rapid Fire Questions. I'm going to throw out 5 questions one at a time, and you can answer them as briefly as possible, but I got to tell you, we end up making it longer than usual. so
Yes.
no pressure, but that's a privilege, isn't it?
That's right. Exactly.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Jessica, tennis can have its moments of humor. Can you recall any funny or unusual incidents that happened during your competitions?
Jeepers. Gosh, I wish there were a lot of moments of humor. Geez. Oh, goodness. Wow, that's a good question. Wow, I think.
Want me to come back to it?
Oh, yes. Well, yes. You can come back to
All right.
to that.
How about if I
Yes.
change it around? You ready?
Yes.
They can also have their moments of absolute loss of control, anger, pissed off, nastiness. Do you remember ever feeling that way?
Oh, well, yes. Actually,
I knew it.
that's. I mean, this was a rather
Common.
interesting story, and this
Yeah.
was actually playing Anna Kournikova at the U.S. Open. It was in the second set. She was serving, and she was well, I was up 5-3, and it was going deuce ad, and it was on a deuce point. I missed the return of serve into the net, and I told the little ball boy to like I've got this ball, and I smashed the ball like to the back fence, and it actually hit the line judge. Unfortunately, I mean, it wasn't that hard, but generally you're actually automatically you're I mean, you're out of the tournament. I mean, you basically, that's it. So, but because I wasn't facing the line judge, they made an exception. So, I just got a warning. But I mean, yeah, that was a bit of a stressful moment.
You remember that so well. That's funny.
Yes,
That's
yes,
great.
yeah. Because I thought, gosh, to be disqualified
Yeah.
from something that was so, it can happen so quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was, but generally you've got to sort of be like you're acting. You can't show your emotion. But sometimes that's hard to do.
How did John McEnroe get away with it all the time? He was always
Yes.
yelling.
Yeah. He was actually quite good with being able to. He actually got it out of his system, and then he could regroup and refocus. Where if you see juniors now, they go ballistic, and then they lose the next 6 points because of that one mistake. So it's counterproductive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question number 2, keeping on that same premise that you just ended with.
Yes.
Best tip or strategy that you find to use to maintain your mental resilience during a high pressure match?
Oh, it's just to just stay in the moment and don't think about the past or the future. Just
Is that hard to do?
Just it can be hard to do, but you just have to do it.
It's part of the training, part of the mental training.
Because that's you can only control right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Question number 3. If you could have a superpower, what would you choose and why?
Gosh, wow, that would be, jeez, gosh, probably. Oh my! I mean, I think just probably being able to just move on and kind of not let anything bother you. Whether just what people say, or just to continue. Don't let all the negative influences from the outside sort of get to you.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Can't let it bother you, right?
No.
All right. Question number 4. One tip you learned as an international tennis player that you wish you had when you first started.
Well, I'd say a tip would be that life is full of highs and lows, and it's really how you get over those low moments and how you recover. I mean, that's sort of the key to life, because everyone's going to have disappointments, but it's how you deal with them. Yeah. So it's
all right. Question number 5, and I may come back to the original question about a momentous occasion, but let's go with question number 5. What was the worst advice you ever got? That when you think about it, you probably roll your eyes to this day and go, "What was I thinking?"
The worst advice, gosh, jeez. Well, gosh, well, it's a good thing that I can't actually
remember that one. Right.
Something that would be kind of sad. Jeez. I think that's where you've just got to trust your gut feeling, and if something doesn't feel right, you've got to listen to your gut, because most of the time it's not right. What your gut's telling you is correct. Yes, but fortunately, no. And unfortunately, I can't think of anything, that
Maybe it's
Right.
practicing
great.
6 hours a
Yes.
day.
Well, maybe that's right. So that was my whole life
That's
then.
right.
Yes,
Right.
that was kind of, that was bad advice
Yeah.
for 15 years.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, so that sums it all up.
yeah.
Yes. No.
Right.
That's yeah. So there we go. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's probably the most obvious thing that you would easily overlook. One of the
Oh
worst
yes,
things.
and thinking that it's in the best of intentions,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I
Right.
should be practicing 5 hours a day.
Right.
Yes, yes. So that was yeah, that was a huge piece of of unfortunate advice.
Right.
Yes,
Uh,
but
all right. So
can only go forward.
what's that?
Yeah.
You can only go forward. Yes.
Yeah.
So now I'll do a 30-minute run instead of a 45-minute
Right.
run later.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. Did you think of
Yes.
a momentous occasion for yourself? Something that was probably one of the most wonderful or funny moments for you. One of the most humorous or entertaining moments.
Gosh, I wish I could remember something that was, sort of, funny. I mean, there were so many unique adventures. I mean, maybe it was flying into Egypt and going, checking in at the hotel and going outside of the hotel, trying to find a restaurant and asking these people who couldn't speak English, like, where is a restaurant? And one lady thought I was some sort of homeless person and told me she thought I was sort of a beggar, and this is in the middle of Cairo.
Yeah.
And I just thought, my gosh. So, I mean, there are many, many just interesting, many unique situations.
That's cool.
So it's certainly, I could, talk for hours about that. Just,
So I'm gonna have a play on words. You said flying into Cairo. Speaking of Cairo, did you have access to chiropractors during your competitions?
yes, yes.
Really?
Yeah,
Back then? Yeah.
yes, I did, and actually, they were a huge help,
Oh,
I must say, but but to find, the best, obviously, like both of you, that's important, but sure, that makes a huge, if it's massage, chiropractor, I mean, that's part of the whole picture, so you've got to incorporate so much.
yeah. Any other specialized care back then that, whether it be acupuncture or dry needling, did they do any of that back then?
In my day, no dry needling. That was probably coming.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the basics. But certainly, prevention is hugely important.
Love that. That is very important nowadays. So, looking back at your journey, what was one piece of advice you'd give to young athletes that are aspiring to make it a profession, make it to the professional level like you did? Anything that you would share?
Oh, I would say, first of all, you've got to love it, and it's got to be your dream, and then just persevere, and it takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication, and and just perseverance, and just never give up, and anything can, you can I mean, you can achieve whatever, everything. You can achieve whatever you aspire to. So just you got to keep on going forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Jess, I really appreciate the wisdom from someone that lived it, breathed it, and made the mistakes and had the successes. And thank you for sharing your inspiring story and your insights into your career and things that our listeners can not only the healthcare providers that are listening can use that to empower their patients, but also the listeners that are involved in sports and athletics that can embrace what you share. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, well, my pleasure. My pleasure. And so thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Terry, anything else?
You are wonderful, and I appreciate it. And I just love sitting back, listening to your accent. It brings back a lot of memories when I was in your country. But thank you for all the hard work. And yeah, you guys were pioneers back then, and it's something that the young women of today need to aspire to and learn from. So thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, Terry.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Crackin Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.